Hey guys, here are a few looks that I recently created using the method that I'm going to show you today. It's super easy. I'm excited. Let's have some fun. What's up guys, it's Courtney. I just wanted to make a little video real quick showing you what I believe is the most inexpensive and easiest way to make realistic looking wounds and cuts. So really the only things that you would need to create the cut before topical makeup would be tissues, liquid latex, dollar store tissues. You probably want the cheapest tissues you can find. If you buy the kind of tissues that are expensive, that have lotion on them for your nose when you are sick, it has that waxiness. It's not as good, I don't think. I can't think of a time that I did any type of makeup where I used more than 2 tissues. Because if it's 2-ply, meaning each tissue you can separate into 2s, you're going to want to even take them apart. So you don't need very much. So tissues, liquid latex. This I bought on Amazon. I'll link everything down below. I believe it was definitely under 20, but I want to say it was $13. But this time of year especially, you can find for a few dollars smaller amounts of liquid latex in your local Halloween store. If you would like to be creating and trying more than just for that one night of All Hallows Eve, I do suggest purchasing more liquid latex. I would suggest, if you want to be practicing this and it's something that you're interested in, cost effective would be to just purchase the larger amount. It goes much further. Fine. I've had this one for a while. It has so much in here. Ounce wise, it's going to be more for your dollar, but if you're just wanting to create a cut or 2, here you go. Other things that I would suggest if we're going to be doing realistic looking wounds. So what I would suggest is makeup or colors that you can mix together, such as browns and whites, blacks and whites, to blend with your skin, or even going to the regular schmegular dollar store and just buying some sort of foundation. If you just using it for that night, you're not necessarily looking for it to be 24-hour long wear Anastasia Beverly Hills. Just go buy some foundation in your color, no matter if you like to wear makeup or not. It's a great way, I think, to blend in a cut or wound. Other than that, I would suggest this local Halloween store cream makeup in red. If you have red lipstick, that works well too. Eyeshadows, purples, reds. The first thing that we want to do is clean off the area that you want to make the cut. I am going to possibly be doing a video that I'll be posting later on, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on my face. If this is a practice for you and you just want to try it before you put it on permanently for that night, if you wanted to try it ahead of time, one of the easiest way to do it is to do it on your non-dominant arms. Looking as much in a mirror, if it's on your face, you can just be looking straight at it. If you're left-handed, don't do it on your left arm. Don't be silly. Okay? It's Halloween, not April Fool's. You can use astringent, nothing that's oil-based. This is just isopropyl alcohol, 50% from the dollar store. I put it in this little spray bottle because I use it a lot, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and clean my face with. Astringent, Stridex pads, things like that would be good to suck up oil, because what we're trying to do is remove dirt, oil, makeup, anything that may be on your skin. You want it to be a great surface area. Latex doesn't like oils. Now you can use your finger for this if we're going super fruit. I got latex in my flipping hair. You can use your finger if you're going super frugal. I have this paint palette that still has this plastic on it, so I've been dumping things so eventually I can just remove the plastic. A paper plate, you could dump it on anything that you pretty much don't really want to keep. You could dump it on the bottom of the tissue box, and once it dries, just turn it back over and no one will know. So put some liquid latex here. I believe that the best way to do it, even not trying to be frugal, is with Q-tips. I can't tell you how many brushes I've ruined thinking, oh, I'll just clean them right away, and they're never the same again. So definitely don't put your favorite brush into this liquid latex. You'll be sad. Tissues can come in 2-ply. Most do. I actually don't know if any don't. So 2-ply means that there's usually 2 together, and you want to keep them separate. So this was 1 tissue. Now this is how much tissue we have. So setting it aside, the first thing that I'm going to do is take my Q-tip, really submerge it in that liquid latex because I don't want it to be sticking to the fibers on the Q-tip. And where I had cleaned, basically I'm just going to put down a base layer. It does take a few minutes to fully dry, but you still want to get the tissue on right away. I suggest ripping the tissue, not cutting it, because you don't want lines of demarcation, meaning when you get to this part of the tissue and it's a straight line, it's not going to look as realistic. So what I like to do is rip and never using straight lines. Get pieces like this. And now I'm just going to start ripping and sticking. That first layer on, I'm going to take a little more of the liquid latex and go over the whole thing, brushing outwards. And even the parts of the tissue that you don't think that you might necessarily need to because of layers, you want it to get liquid latex on it. You don't want it to just be a dry tissue, because we are going to cut into this and it's not going to look as realistic if when we do cut in, it looks like you're opening a box of tissues on the side of your face. One technique that I like to use is rolling the Q-tip outward, because sometimes dragging it can pull. Once the liquid latex starts to dry, it becomes tacky and will pull off your face if you touch it too much. So once it starts to pull, that means that it's done and you need to go on to another layer, or else you're going to start pulling it off. I'm going to focus on just building up the middle of my wound. Never making too many layers that are dry. Constantly using just 1 ply of the tissue and then adding more latex. The deeper you want the cut, the more layers you need. If you just want it to be a little slice, we could probably stop here. I'm going to make mine a little bit deeper. I might be creating some sort of an eye socket look, so I want the middle to be able to have more tissue for me to cut into, creating a deeper looking wound. Once you get more towards the middle where we're just building, it's not as important to make sure that you don't have the straight edges, because we're just basically using it now to create depth it's more of the jagged edge around here is what's easier to blend if you have that. So when you're in here, feel free to use the corner pieces or whatever you need and kind of crumpling it around and putting it in with the liquid latex. The next thing that I would suggest doing is letting this fully dry while doing something else that you're doing to get ready, or taking a hair dryer. You do not want to attempt to work with this until it's fully dry. It will not come out as good as it can, and once you try to do it with it not ready, there's really not too much you can do to turn back. While latex is drying quickly while working with it, it does take a while to dry, especially when we have layers. So you have to consider the bottom layer needs to be dry if you want to create a more realistic looking wound before we work more with it. I like to let mine set a little bit so that it's not tacky to the touch on the outside, but then what we're going to do is what I'm just using today is regular baby powder. I'm just going ahead with a makeup brush. You could use any sort of paintbrush, any type of brush that you have actually, and I'm just going to set it by taking the baby powder and pressing it on there. Now this takes a while to dry. You can use a hair dryer. Usually when you're getting ready, if you're doing something like this anyway, you have other things that you could be doing with your costume. Now I'm going to go ahead and brush off the powder that I had set this with. And the reason that you can now see where I had blended out the latex, because the powder has stuck to it, leaving this now non-tacky. I am going to now cover this with my personal makeup because I'm going to create a realistic looking wound. If you were going to be something that was gray, now would be a good time to do all the gray, covering this as well. But today what I'm going to do is just use my makeup. I'm adding a darker color over this before I add a second coat of my makeup, because this being a completely white tissue, just because we're putting the same color makeup everywhere does not mean that it's going to look the same color. It's always going to be a little lighter. So I'm going to have to add some darker color here to mix with the foundation to create the same color and blend that wound in. So some people might consider this to be a harder part. I think this is the fun part, playing around, really getting to play with the different colors and figure out how you want it to look and blend in. Once I get it basically a color that I am satisfied with, I'm going to go ahead and add some redness and irritation colors, meaning purples, blues, basically the way my eyes look and my lips. So bruising, redness, irritation around where I plan to have this wound. I've never gotten hurt before and not had my skin get red and sore, if not blood. So you can look at pictures of other wounds that are similar to something that you want to create, but honestly, purples, blacks, blues, start light. I'm going to use this pinkish blush that I have. You can use the red makeup, colors like that, but in a light hand. meaning don't apply too much. Another tip is if you are using makeup, don't use something that has shimmer. Use all matte makeup. Don't use anything that has gloss to it. And if you're using cream makeup, that is harder to work with, but you can use a brush and blend it around as if you were using a powder, and that gives it a more realistic effect. I can show you what I mean by putting a little bit of this red on, which I normally would not choose to use, but it can be done. And I'm talking and before it's fully dry, just continue with blending. Even using some fake blood. Not having it drip, but just putting a little bit onto my brush directly and then bringing it in to blend. Okay, once I have it around the color that I want it to look, I'm going to take these small scissors and carefully cut open the wound where I want it to look as though I have been cut. When I stick this in, obviously I don't want to cut down into my own face. I leave some of the part between me and tissue, and I cut it carefully and slowly, starting a bit inwards where we put the thicker amount of the tissue paper. Again, this is something that you can do and decide how you want it to look. Straight lines are harder to work with. I'm going to create more of a pocket type wound. This could be something where you don't want to cut anymore. You can rip. Ripping is always a good way when working with this type of tissue latex combo, because it's just going to look more realistic as opposed to these straight lines sticking out. So I'm going to go ahead in and I did try to leave some of the tissue and my skin. This just happened. I could feel that I wasn't cutting myself. Don't cut yourself. Please. Please don't cut yourself. Using the same colors that we did on the outside, I'm going to take the same brush and the same colors and do the inside, using the brush to get in, down, and a little bit around without lifting up too much, because as the night goes on, there is a chance that your wound will tear and open up a little bit more, and that whiteness on the inside there, you don't want that to show. Okay. So all the edges, all the inside, blending it, making sure that you get all the spaces in there. I'm going to go ahead and take a thicker amount now and just really saturate the inside. Now this red color to me looks a little fake, because it is, thankfully. I'm not bleeding from a giant gaping wound on the side of my cheek. I'm going to use some of the fake blood now. This is just regular schmegular dollar store brand vampire blood that I've had for years because it lasts me a long time. I like to use it as the makeup. It's a good color. I like to mix it with that cream red paint. Once you are satisfied with the look of that, I would suggest making sure that you are not wearing anything or standing over anything that you don't want to ruin, because we're going to use the fake blood. It will stain. Now, what I like to do is wherever you have that cut, assume that it's just happened to you and that you want to stand in the direction of where the blood would naturally flow out of your body. So I'm going to pour it in looking upward, but then immediately put my face this way so that however it naturally drips out is how I will be assuming in my mind when I created this wound that I was standing when it potentially happened. Gravity would say probably downward. Don't pour it on your face and like lean, do a head flip and like the blood drips up. That's actually cool. Do that and then tag me. Be like, you're getting sucked up. Yeah, I like that. Yes. Anyway, I'm doing it regular gravity style. My wound is deep, so I'm helping some of it come out. There we go. Loves that. So this will dry. Takes a little bit. I don't like to touch it because naturally this is just, if I was bleeding apparently from this wound, this is just like how it would have came out on its own. So now you fix it up how you like it. I always like a little bit of just looks kind of like slimy exposed in there. Like, you know, like it looks like that hurts. Like I feel like that's look of that in there. I don't like to add too much. I know you can put black in there. That's something that you could practice with. Play around with the colors. Basically, it's just how you want it to look. If you like it, you like it. I think that this is how I'm going to keep this one. I am going to insert a googly eye into this bad Larry. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you want to see my completed look, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Even if you don't want to see my completed look, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be a little different. And if you want to bleed from the side of your face, do it with tissues and latex. Please don't hurt yourself. Have a super fun, safe, happy Halloween. Be kind to each other. I wanted to say thank you to all my friends and sending love and best wishes out there this October. I love you all so much. Extra love to all my haters. Bye, guys.